There's also something as a company you can think about for your own adoption, your internal adoption of Gen AI, and just having, again, not a restrictive internal company policy, but just some guidelines. Employees are trying to understand what they can and can't use. What can they share with what models? Which ones expose your PII or protected information externally versus keep it internally? So I think, look, in addition to watching and monitoring all the state and federal legislations to ensure compliance, and I'm with Mark, let's hope there's a logical balance between a little bit of protection without over-regulating and slowing, right? Having a little bit of guidelines around ethical boundaries so those aren't blurred is great. But look, don't forget about your internal employees. As we've seen from all the data, everyone is experimenting with AI. You don't want all your valuable IP and information, just someone uploading your whole customer list to a public LLM, as an example. So don't forget about the internal guidelines for your teams.
Yeah, that's a big issue in my world with the enterprise software is the the exposure of data and this data security around that. I think Nandan, would you have something to say about the whole data security and the exposure of data for enterprise systems?
Yeah. So I was going to say that you need to have, I think, like Cameron mentioned, a framework to ensure that you have ethics and security considered. So what I'm hearing from people is that they are following, they are taking these guardrails into consideration first before they start implementing AI, Gen AI especially, because the companies that are implementing Gen AI are the ones that have got over that bump of the fear and fear that the companies have in terms of, just like Cameron mentioned, the data being exposed, right? So one of the ways that I've seen is that is to have the right partnerships. So for example, one of the companies that I know is using Microsoft. So Microsoft, what it does is it backs you up in terms of the legal problems. So if they have any problems with respect to legal of using the data, it backs you up. It covers you. And then it also ensures that with the Azure OpenAI, it has got a secure place where you have the data which can be used without any problem, without any risk of that being used to train the models. By the way, OpenAI clearly says that when you use APIs, they don't use the data to train the model. But still, to be more careful, what enterprises are doing is going through partners who can help them as they take this journey.
Here's an interesting thing. The entire Gen AI development from when it started appearing mainstream to where it is right now, the rate at which it has matured has been very quick. It's tremendous. And while governments are scrambling to figure out policies at a macroeconomic level, at an organization level, as Gen AI practitioners, we are looking at two poles. One side, we want to build competency in AI in an organization. We want people to experiment with AI, and we don't want AI to scare people away. On the other hand, we need to set these guardrails so that people do not get reckless with the kind of data and the kind of information that's shared with AI systems, because you don't know what is going to go and train what and what's going to happen out of it. So yeah, the two, on the one side, we want democratization of AI for the enterprise. On the other side, we want to have some kind of, governance set in place. And it's been a very delicate balance, but this balance is something that organizations like going through, especially if they are very upfront and if they want to be forerunners as far as adoption of Gen AI.
One of the things I've seen, Dan, is to what Kaushik Ram mentioned is, building internal chat GPTs. So what they've done is they have blocked everything with respect to AI. So they can't, the employees cannot access chat GPT or Claude or any of these open AIs, but they have built an internal chat GPT like thing, which uses the internal data and uses data that is required. So basically they can use it for work and they are not also giving data to some, generic models like chat GPT.
The other thing though, besides leaking data, is also making sure you have a good understanding of what you asked for and what you got, and that's also fairly tricky, right? If you're when you have a generative model write code for you, if you're not a software engineer or you can't write SQL, you're not really reviewing that and figuring it out. So, we've at least spent quite a lot of time building feedback loops so that we can tell you back in natural language, like exactly how we approached the problem that you asked for. And we spend a lot of time trying to surface the driving factors that are going into a decision. Because if you don't understand those, you're really kind of flying blind. And one thing that I've learned like pretty quickly is people aren't great at being very specific or explicit with natural language. They're often a little bit lazy in their asks. And you probably see this every day today when you ask an analyst to go bring you back an insight on a certain topic. It may take a few times back and forth before you get that right insight. It's a natural language specificity problem. And so, I think everyone needs to be a little bit careful about making sure they're getting what they're asking for when they're working with large language models to do complex tasks.
And I think, John, that just reinforces the point, right? That this has got to be humans plus machines. I think there is so much fear around AI generally automating jobs and replacing jobs. And I think the framing's got to be that this is going to turn every knowledge worker 10x more effective. The idea that we're just suddenly going to go and let an AI system go and build all of our products from scratch and not do any code reviews ever, I mean, it's kind of ludicrous, right? So I really wish that we could try and change the overarching media narrative that we should all be terrified that AI is going to make us all unemployed, and actually get really excited about the opportunity it gives us to become far more effective in our jobs. And to Cameron's point, get to these ridiculously long backlogs that I'm sure all of our dev teams face right on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think it's just exclusive to the software engineering case. It's probably a little bit more obvious where you actually can't read code, you're going to really struggle. But, just in day-to-day usage, of generative AI tools, you're going to need some skills, some experience in getting the most out of these tools in your domain. And I mean, we're really excited by any of the vertical solutions where you combine really strong vertical knowledge with then a generative AI co-pilot. I think you can get some really magic results.
I mean, and I think like...
Go ahead. We're all talking at once. Go ahead.
Okay. So, no, what I'm saying is, the way I like to look at it is you are developing a partner for yourself to work better. And that's the way I like to see it. So like John mentioned, you need to get the AI to work like you. So most of the people, what they do is they just give prompts, which is very generic. And there are like 1,000 prompts on social media, which you just get generic prompts. But the problem with that is that, the AI is wild and just running around. So you want an AI which is like you. So you want to give it context, like who you are, what's your background, what are you looking for, what's your audience, and that kind of thing, which makes the AI like you and work for you. And that's a key point. I think many people tend to forget that. As a chat GPT, let me chat with it. No, the idea is to get it to work with you and for you.
Yeah, and it's funny, we've talked about a couple of use cases around software development, technology development. But what if you're a giant pharmaceutical and you've got a portfolio of medical devices or pharmaceutical drugs you're trying to research, and you're trying to make massive decisions, billion-dollar decisions about things that are going to hit the market in years, and you can be faster, more effective, you can understand the risk faster. We can have massive impact on people's health and well-being. Diabetes is really close to me and my family. Yeah, if we can help Medtronic make faster pumps or Sanofi make better insulin, and research cures faster because they're able to make better decisions, collect data from a variety of teams, tools, and sources, and understand pivots and changes in the resources in the market to get drugs to market faster that can have a material impact, there is societal benefit from this. So we got to look at the outcomes that we're driving, and it absolutely is multiplicative in what we can do, not just in burning down software coding tech backlogs, but in improving lives of everyday citizens.
Yeah, I would think that would just be a general engineering and design question, right? I mean, for any type of company, not just med devices, any kind of manufacturers, for instance. That prototyping and engineering process is sometimes really brutal. And you've got a lot of different, maybe not integrated tools, such as CAD programs and PLM and all those sorts of things. If you can really kind of automate and improve that process of prototyping and get them to market quicker, then that would be a huge benefit.
Well, and think, so many physical devices are connected, right? There's software. There's more software engineers at an auto manufacturer than there are mechanical engineers. But yet these, unlike, I think everyone here, like we're in some sort of software company, right? We have software developers and that's all we do, right? We're experts at that. But you take a traditional products company and they're trying to compete with software, but that's new to them. Hey, adding co-pilots, adding some of this generative AI makes them more competitive where they can get their products to market faster and better as well. So yes, software native companies, this could definitely going to be a material productivity impact for all of us. But everyone who's competing in traditional products yet has to figure out software and embed it in there. That's even a bigger impact that it can have on those organizations.
Yeah, and I think it's about the data. I think it's about the data, right? Like this is the next phase of the evolution, because right now the generative AIs that we see, the models are trained on generic data, like the internet data. But the next phase, as Cameron is mentioning, and Dan, as you're mentioning, is the manufacturing data, the pharmaceutical companies' data. So once you have that data, you, as Cameron mentioned, that there is a possibility for an even bigger impact, and that I hear that OpenAI is working with companies to get that data in with specific companies. So that would be the next level of impact.